Hello Hong Kong Shenzhen, inspired by the recent mega Hong Kong hit film called The Twilight of the Warriors, which was based in the Kowloon Wall City, one of the world's largest huge slums that ever existed in humankind history. In today's video, we're going to talk about what is this place? How did it come about? Why was the film successful? And what about the depiction? What about actually the normal daily life of people who lived here? It was indeed one of the world's leading slum areas, and yet also a setting for many movies and games around the world. Kowloon Castle, or the City of Anarchy, did look like a crime city from the outside. But what is surprisingly unknown is that actual appearance was a place where many children and even the elderly lived, as they did anywhere else in Hong Kong. Yes, it was a city of internal light, a place very crowded. The sunlight you could never see, wires were dangling down, and dirty water was always dripping, and you had huge Boeing 747 flying over every few minutes. But it was a city, a society that existed like never before in humankind's history. The population growth was absolutely spectacular. People came from mainland China to escape the politics, the civil wars. Perhaps there were criminals escaping from other countries or Hong Kong. They could live and hide here quite comfortably. Density-wise, 1.2 million. It was the densest place ever existed on the planet Earth. But it was knocked down by the early 1990s. Behind me is the remains of the Kowloon Wall City. Its demolition was in 1993, but its history was much longer than that. It basically started in the Song dynasty, so around AD 960, more than 1,000 years ago. In essence, the Kowloon Wall City was initially built as a military fortress to protect vital trading ships from pirates, which was very common at the time. The Kowloon Wall City was fortified, was also seen against a deterrence against the European powers. But the Opium War happened and Britain won against China. In 1898, Britain and China signed a treaty for 99 years, leasing the new territories. At the time, the Qing government held the rights to the areas of the Wall City, but by 1899, the British declared the Wall City. It was also part of their colonized land. The Chinese government never officially acknowledged the city. And at that time, the British government hadn't implemented its sovereignty. This is what led to the Wall City's particular status as of yesterday. It made the Wall City unregulated and became a shelter for all different kinds of people. So now that the British began leasing the new territories, Kowloon Wall City was left as the territory of the Qing dynasty, as an exception. Then World War II happened. The Japanese army that occupied Hong Kong demolished the walls of Kowloon Wall City in order to procure the materials for the expansion of Kaidaki Airport. And after the World War II, mainland China was in a state of civil war between the Kuomintang, the nationalists led by Chiang Kai-shek, and the communists by Mao Zedong. In the 1970s, as the construction of reinforced concrete began, the population really accelerated. People leaving China because of the war. A lot of them went straight directly to Kowloon Wall City. And so the Kowloon Wall City became very popular for anyone who wanted to escape arrest from any authorities. It acted as a diplomatic void. The Chinese government in Beijing said it belongs to us, but they were not allowed in. The British government colonial said, well, we're not quite sure what to do with this, so just let it be. And it became a magnet for anyone who just basically wanted to be free. It became kind of like a city, a country on its own. Without any laws, no one could go in, no one could ever be arrested. Perhaps the best place on earth, isn't it?
雖然城就係三不管，但係並唔係好似一般人想象中咁可怕。入到嚟會俾人又打又殺嘅。出邊嘅人入到嚟，冇錯，有啲人會眼望望，不過係冇惡意㗎。但係去到邊度都係一樣嘅啦。去到啲生保地方黑麻麻嘅橫街窄巷。最好就咪亂咁撞啊！唉，自己都幾十歲啦。
Triads like this one here dominated. They essentially became the de facto government, and they ran Kowloon Wall City quite well. Of course, sometimes they ran out of electricity, but and water as well. But in essence, it was a society ruled by the mafia. They did their side jobs, drugs, prostitution, as ever, since they were gangsters, but they also did a lot of social services. This has often been overlooked. They were incessants. They received tax. They built water pipes. They were kind of like the policemen, and they were the firemen, and they were social services, and they provided kindergarten, hospitals, table tennis.
30幾年嚟，我就係咁樣喺城寨嚟過日啦。呢度人人都叫我做雷伯。以前好多街坊嚟幫襯我非法嘅，而家年紀老過嚟嘅。嗱，我個孫就係長期客仔啦。城寨當然亦都變咗好多啦。而家周圍都起滿晒大廈，逼夾夾咁圍住嗰啲舊式嘅矮屋，剩翻俾人行嘅咧，就只係得呢啲又黑又窄嘅巷仔。外邊嘅人入到嚟啊，周時都蕩失路㗎。
There's two sides of the stories. On the one side, especially glamorized by films and movies and mangas, it was an infestation of rule by the mafia, by the triads. They had total control. They were the de facto government. And so they were running prostitutions, they were selling drugs, illegal gambling, illegal dentists, and illegal food making areas. Everything about it was dark, dangerous, dirty, criminal, illegal. The film's action scenes, the mega stars in it, is without doubt a major attraction. But the major reason it's really popular in Hong Kong, and also it has grossed over $100 million is because it portrayed the community spirit, the neighborhood friendliness, the brotherhood. Much of it, to be honest, has long gone in Hong Kong. It no longer exists, and people long for it from a bygone era. Yes, they were poor. Yes, they had nothing, not even electricity sometimes. They had to queue for water, but they helped each other. They cared for one another. The whole community was as one. Very different from the individualistic, capitalistic.
好多喺出邊犯咗事嘅人，就最中意走嚟城寨㗎啦。冇嘢嘅，貪呢度裏邊啲街好似八陣圖咁，可以左穿右插，警察唔容易捉到佢哋啊嘛。講開警察，以前城寨冇警察巡更㗎。我記得喺前幾年，好似係76年，先至正式有警察入城寨維持治安嘅。以前好多老居民都認為城寨嘅治安唔算壞。
多謝啦。喂，學慢慢行啊，睇住樓梯啊。喂，好啦，難俾你哋擔水啊。係啊，阿爸，我哋擔水擔10幾年㗎啦。
呢啲小型工廠多數係一家人自己做晒，就算請伙計，8成以上都係請翻住喺城寨裏邊嘅人，人工平啊嘛。不過而家住喺城寨啲後生仔女，好多寧願出去外邊工廠做。
究竟你屋企有冇窗㗎？
有，不過等於冇一樣啫嘛。
點解？
點解？梗係啦，因為佢每一座樓同每一座樓之間嘅空間啊係好少嘅咋，咁甚至差唔多係貼住咁啊。假如果你有窗嘅話，一開啫就撞到對面座樓嘅牆啦，咁即係冇用。
講或者公廁度追龍，但係賣白粉嘅煙格咧就少咗好多啦。
If you were super wealthy, you took drugs. If you had a little bit of money, you would take heroin or opium. This is a druggie here. Children, do not copy him, or you will die, as per this gentleman here. He's telling us how much he lost his whole family. He used to have 2 shops because he took too much heroin. After you die, quite often you just get carried out and dumped in the street, and the Hong Kong Hospital Authority will just pick up your corpse and burn it.
無形中養到啲老鼠又肥又大隻。咧，周時行過仲有水滴落嚟添啊，都唔知係唔係污糟水嚟嘅。城寨嘅坑渠都係明渠嚟嘅，咧好多人就係咁順手喺坑渠倒屎倒尿㗎啦，有啲父母仲俾啲細佬哥隨地解決添。喺呢10年裏，城寨起咗好多10幾層高嘅大廈，而家仲有好多起緊㗎。起樓嘅時候唔使打樁，又唔使政府批准，而唯一嘅限制就係唔可以起得太高，因為近住飛機場，太高會造成危險喎。啲政府嘅人時時會入嚟巡㗎。又唔使交差餉。好似300幾尺嘅樓喺城寨，即係賣5萬銀，而出邊呢就最少要10幾20萬啦。不過喺城寨買樓咧係冇屋契嘅，有起事上嚟，梗係冇乜保障㗎啦。
It's a very iconic scene in the film. 住喺城寨，周時好天落雨都唔知㗎。睇下啲樓逼到實一實，喺街度就望唔到天，而喺屋裏邊呢，就算有窗，都可能會俾對面屋逼住開唔到。以為舊樓冇水，新樓實有啦，點知都係冇合法嘅食水供應㗎嘛。有人問過水務局，佢哋答覆話安裝工程困難。因為起新樓嘅時候冇起到地下排水渠，所以好多住喺新樓嘅居民都係靠一個月俾20幾30蚊啲偷水集團去偷駁街喉嘅水用嘅啫。
唔翻嘅喺香港，未見過九龍城寨啲老鼠咁大隻啊！呢個係一個特色嚟嘅，九龍城寨啲老鼠大隻到咧，可以同啲貓比味嘅。
冇乜啦，不過醫生就好多喎，但係啲醫生多數係由中國內地或者東南亞國家嚟嘅，個個都係冇牌行醫㗎。相信大家都知啦，喺城寨做咩生意都唔使牌嘅，開醫務所唔使掛牌唔再講啦，開牙醫診所都一樣㗎。嗱。城寨呢條牙醫街就出晒名啊！牙醫多到成行成市，差唔多有成100幾間。呢啲牙醫當中，有啲係喺中國內地畢業嘅，有啲呢就係做假牙嘅師傅。出邊好多人入嚟幫襯佢哋整牙鑲牙啊，因為平過出邊1半有多，而且仲唔使等前立後添。
以前啲人講就好冇計較，好有義氣，講一聲就即係同村同一講一聲就撲晒出嚟嘅，唔識都即係
開心嘅。
係啊，你一望到自己條村就安全噶啦。
應該係。同
埋你把聲一叫，聽到你就安全噶啦。
冇係即係失業，咁我哋咧就自己做一啲點心出去賣。朝頭早好早起身啦，5點鐘要起身。 就做我先生咧就做包啦。咁我哋咧就又要啲小朋友幫手啦，包粉果啊、燒賣啊，咁蒸好咗就拎出去大街，用一架平時小販推嗰啲木頭車。
係買㗎，
有契喎，
唔係公共屋邨嚟㗎。
佢有契喎。
係啊，買㗎。所以佢當時拆嘅時候，政府咪要曬住佢哋要咩咯？
當年咧，我個女1歲嘅時候咧，啱啱1歲我就搬去城寨，係因為我喺廣州嘅時候咧，我隔離嗰家人咧就搬咗去城寨住，咁嗰度咧就係平啲咯。到小
咁啊，信咗耶穌嗰陣時候咧，就改咗個名叫做鄧保羅。2歲咧就從大陸落嚟香港。我爸爸咧就搭咗一間屋，前鋪後居，常用品啊，嗰啲汽水啊，嗰啲咁嘅嘢，又賣一啲吸毒用具啊咁樣，唔係毒品嚟嘅。我送汽水，送啲嘢去嗰啲吸毒嘅嗰啲人嗰度嚟咯，所以識到一啲人，咁嗰啲人咧就叫下，試下啦，玩下啫咁樣嚇，咁樣有錢嘅人咧去食嗰啲紅丸，呢個最高級。第二咧就鴉片，食鴉片嘅人咧就睇唔起食白粉嘅人，但係咧最平嘅咧就係白粉，最毒嘅咧都係白粉。
It was actually a real neighborhood of people. Most of the people here, 90%, were just normal working class people who just came from China and living here.
We knew that the Kaita airport was only like 10 minutes walk from us. We also saw the aeroplanes flying. We can see their belly and I think they can see us. But we still fly kites. You know, we really enjoy playing at that time.
認為城寨好過出邊好多嘅地區，梗係啦。喺呢度開工廠又唔使同政府領牌，樓價又平，人工又低，唔怪得條條街都有啲咩五金廠啊、塑膠廠啊、織布廠啊咁啦。雖然話佢哋對香港工業有幫助，但係嗰啲廢氣同噪音就好難頂啊！唔怪得出邊嘅人經過都話城寨又嘈又臭啦。
The British colonial government finally decided to demolish the Kowloon Wall City in 1993, and it was no more. Behind me now is the remnants of the old Kowloon Wall City. It's now transformed into a big, large public park. Of high-rise buildings built after 1997, and the low-rise buildings
係初頭嘅淺灘，慢慢出到去睇得開始深水啦。咁我當時嘅地貌咧就係淺灘咧，我哋曬鹽。你諗下南宋嗰陣時，呢度有北方， 俾白銀，俾白銀就收稅，咁有 commission， 咁啊官方有錢。
This picture was taken around 1910. You can see some kind of procession carrying many chairs here. Perhaps it was a birthday, perhaps it was a wedding, perhaps it's the birthday of a god. Today it is a beautiful park, but there is a sadness. A lot of people who left here, who lived here through the decades, hundreds and thousands, a lot of them do miss this place. The British finally decided to demolish it, partly because they wanted to give as a gift to the new communist regime. And also it was an embarrassment for them that they had this slum in the area for such a long time. It's been quite a journey, inspired by the film. I did a lot of research, went to the parks, went to a lot of exhibitions, went to a lot of areas around Hong Kong that still has elements of the Kowloon Wall City. But at the end of the day, even with all the different exhibitions and sites around Hong Kong, there's nothing that will ever quite beat it. I wish I had the chance to actually go into the real Kowloon City. But now it lives in our imagination, in very well made movies, such as The Twilight of the Warriors, Walled In. Please take a chance to watch it. It's one of the greatest films in Hong Kong in the last few years. It was a lifeline for many people. Yes, it was dark. Yes, it was cramped. But it gave hope to thousands who had no hope. Yes, there was no labour laws. Yes, the tribes ran it. Yes, crime was big. It was not some shiny utopia. There were shady people, but it was organised anarchy. No nation exerted control over it. It wasn't kind of like Hunger Games. The triads were the government, and actually in essence ran it quite well. It really was a functioning society. Schools, temples, libraries. Will we ever see anything like this ever again in our lifetime? Perhaps we will, perhaps we don't. But it will always remain one of the most iconic places, not just in Hong Kong, but in humankind history. Kowloon Wall City, the city of internal brightness.